where the station has been hollowed out by the impact. Firefighters clearing through the bits of twisted rubble, working through the building, which is still smouldering. The strikes coinciding with peace talks between the US and Ukraine.
This is a very dramatic, realistic setup here. They're using howitzers and tanks to repel what would be an attack by Chinese troops by air and by sea.
And with Iran-backed Houthis now joining this war, launching missiles towards Israel from Yemen, there are fears of this conflict expanding. That's despite Special Envoy Steve Witkoff saying that the U.S. is hopeful of having meetings with Iran this week. Rachel?
Yeah, as this war enters now its fifth week. All right, Britt, thank you.
According to the Yale report, this is a whole network of re-education, militarization. This is about Ukrainian children being taught to hate their country and maybe even fight against their own people one day. A truce of sorts it may be. We've been on the ground inside factories in eastern China. We've seen firsthand recently where they are heavily diversifying production away from U.S. customers, because they haven't seen America as a reliable partner for some time. But, those I've spoken to, they say they still recognize it's an important market and want to see business with Americans return. But, as a general rule, when it comes to covering China, reading the tea leaves, you always look at what it does, not what it says. And we've also seen China produce these long-term plans with a focus on self-reliance in tech sector, for example. Another indication that despite stabilization in relations with the U.S., China has economic challenges at home. It wants to bring down the temperature, yes, but it's also preparing for the long-term rivalry with the U.S. to continue. I interviewed Lai at his home while he was out on bail in 2020.
I came here with $1. Escaped from China when I was 12. This place gave me everything. My reward is to pay back.
Now, Lai's son says the way his father stood up for freedom and defended his people should resonate with Americans, and he hopes Lai's case will be on the agenda when President Trump visits China in April. Robin?
ABC's Britt Clennett is in Istanbul with the latest. Britt, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. Yeah, I'm here at an arena in Istanbul. You might be able to hear the choir practicing behind me. This is where Pope Leo will soon hold an historic Holy Mass with thousands of Christians coming here from far and wide. He's continuing to seek common ground with other faiths with this message of unity on his 6-day trip to Turkey and Lebanon. This morning, touring the Blue Mosque with Turkish officials, the Vatican Lebanon for the second part of his trip. Now, there have been major security worries surrounding his visit to Lebanon just days after Israeli attacks. The Pope expected to make a big plea for peace. Gio?
And peace is something we should all be on board with. Britt Clennett, thank you.
Good morning, Michael. Yeah, well, you can see the growing vigil behind me. This community, this country, still in utter shock. It was just yards away from here where those gunmen opened fire on a group of Jewish people marking the first day of Hanukkah. 15 killed, including a 10-year-old girl. This morning, an outpouring of grief. Australians holding vigils for the 15 people killed in that anti-Semitic attack on Sydney's Bondi Beach. An American who was at the festival with her son when the attack started.
I just put my body over him to shield him and protect him. And he was meanwhile screaming, crying. His face was red. He was sweating. There was mud and grass all over him. And I was trying not to suffocate him.
And police are investigating a trip taken to the Philippines by the two alleged gunmen last month. Meanwhile, we're learning more about the victims. 10-year-old Matilda, remembered as a bright, joyful and spirited child who brought light to everyone around her. Guys.
Boy, so much heartbreak this weekend. Thank you, Britt.
Well, we've just landed in Beijing where security is tight, which is why we're filming inside the car here. Along here is where China will host its grand parade, a chance for it to show its power, its new weapons, including hypersonic missiles, drones, stealth fighters. In attendance will be President Putin of Russia, Kim Jong-un, the reclusive North Korean leader who rarely leaves his country. And those three standing together on that platform will have many people questioning whether it's the beginning of the New World Order. 20 other leaders are also expected to attend, many of them facing very high tariffs from President Trump. And China, therefore, trying to portray itself as the kind of stable counterpart, China believing that now is its moment.